Hello and welcome to the Father and Son Pastime podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
That's my dad. Dad, we're not doing a draft today, everybody. We're doing somewhere between like trivia, stories. It's all going to be intertwined. We're talking about Major League records today.
Great. Good time to do it, middle of February.
Absolutely. When there's no baseball. Baseball is still, unfortunately, in a lockout. We hopefully get a full season of baseball, but it's looking very, very gloom. It's looking
Thanksgiving, seventh day of the World Series.
That'd be great Thanksgiving. I'd love it.
Yeah, it would be fun. Great day.
Yeah. But, Dad, we're going to talk about 25 records that I've chosen that I think are debatable if they're going to be broken one day.
Okay.
Some I think are not, and some I think are, but I really want to get your opinion on some of these. Some of these are going to be really common, like hits leader, home runs leader, steals, that kind of stuff. But some will be really unique, too. My dad doesn't know any of the topics, the records I've chosen, so I'm really just going to fire at him. Dad, what do you think if this is going to get broken? Why or why not? If he wants to get my opinion on the matter, too, that's fine. But really, I'm the interviewer here. And
he'll have his opinion.
We got some National League blue on. Shout out to the Expos.
Yeah.
Speaking of strikes and lockouts, I mean, this could have been the 94 World Series champion.
Yeah, and Expos could have been in it. They had a great team in 94.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dad, let's get into it. So, again, we're going to cover common, unusual records all over the map and just really see what you think. Let's talk about, since we are a Maryland podcast, let's just lead off with Cal Ripken and talk about the Iron Man streak. Will anyone ever in baseball break his 2,632 games played consecutively streak?
Not even close.
I agree.
I think in today's society, the managers really want their players to take a day off. How Cal did that, I'll never know. But, between the long homestands and the travel and everything else, they're encouraged during the 162-game season to take frequent days off, and they say, hey, you played in 14 games, you're getting tomorrow off. So now it's much more part of the schedule that they have to have players take off. So that will never even get close.
Yeah, I agree. I think the current leader is somewhere like 500 games played straight, and even that I'm not too positive on. It's not even close.
Yep.
Well, let's jump to another. This one is more arguable in my opinion, but it's still going to be very difficult to beat. We're talking about steroids. We've talked a lot about steroids on this podcast, but Barry Bonds' all-time career home run record. We can talk about single season as well, too. We'll talk about both. 73 in a season and 762 all-time. Are either of those ever broken?
I say neither will be broken. 73 home runs in a season, really incredible. The more you kind of think about everything, and again, it's a lot about the baseball, and it was about steroids as well. They're trying to deaden the baseball. They're trying to have so many home runs. They're trying to play a little more small ball. They're getting tired of either strikeouts or home runs. I don't think 73 will be broken.
What about a 762?
No, I think that's a longevity thing as well. I think people might get in that 600 plateau, but think about how lucky you need to be to hit all those home runs, and Barry had a little help along the way. I just don't think that's attainable.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, we'll look at Hank Aaron's career, look at Babe Ruth's career. It's just nobody should be playing 20-plus years of baseball anymore. I mean, we look at Cabrera and Pujols, people that are active home run leaders right now, and they're still 100-plus away. I know Miggy's way more away than Pujols.
And they're at the tail end of their career.
Right, yeah. They got a year or two left.
Yeah.
I think Pujols retires in 2022, Miggy maybe 2024. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure on their contracts. That's just my guess.
And the numbers keep going down.
Right. And it's tough. I mean, they're great players, Hall of Famers.
Correct.
It's just you play too long sometimes.
Yep.
Mathematically, you would need 50 home runs a year for 15 years just to get close to Barry Bonds. And that's just not possible.
Yeah.
Stanton, has, I think he hit 59 or 60 a couple years ago. So still very different from 73 because a lot of people, Griffey included, Maris, have hit those Babe Ruth-like numbers, but people that are hitting Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds, they all had some supplements. I don't know with the cracking of that. I know you're talking about the baseball as well.
Injuries.
Yeah, injuries.
Yeah.
It just... Hank Aaron fans that grew up watching Hank Aaron, I don't know if my dad would have thought when he was 20 years old, 25 years old, if Hank Aaron's record would ever been broken. So real curious.
Yeah.
I think it's possible versus Ripken's record. Like if I was a betting man,
Yeah.
what's more likely to happen? A home run one is more likely. But I think they'll be set for current how baseball is right now. It's going to be near impossible to beat either.
Don't forget, back when I grew up in baseball, the bullpens were not used to where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
So, back in the day, you had a starter going 7, 8, 9, and you know darn well the velocity couldn't stand up through the whole 9 innings. And then you had somebody may come in the 8th inning and get 2/3 of an inning. But now you got somebody going through 5, and then you got somebody coming in throwing 100, 97, 96.
Yeah, a sinker at 95.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
And I think then, if you're used to the starter throwing 91, 92, and you bring in throwing 97, the batter is going, whoa, whoa, whoa. So, again, the game's changed. Mm-hmm. So, that's my big take.
So we're looking so far to add 3 for 3, not broken by your standards. Speaking of Hank Aaron, let's talk about most All-Star games played. This is starting to get a little slightly more unusual. Hank Aaron holds a record for 25 All-Star game appearances.
Wow, that's impressive.
And again, I'll let you kind of weigh in here, but back half of Hank Aaron's career, they had 2 All-Star games in a MLB season.
Okay.
So now reducing that to 1 certainly hurts that possibility. Is it ever broken?
No, 25-year career is
All-Star year career too.
Yeah, you just can't athletically stand up for 25 years at a very high level to be among the best in the game.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
I know you talked about pitching. We'll get into that, but I wanted to focus a lot on the hitting first.
Oh, sure.
DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. First one, so that's the first pause you've had, so it seems to be the most possible out of these 5.
I'm thinking that could be broken. It's going to take a lot of luck, but the other thing that comes into play is consecutive games being played. Well, if somebody get a day off, let's say they're at 40, and all of a sudden they're playing a doubleheader, and they're saying, hey, you're going to rest the second game?
You can, though. I think in the hit streak, as long as you're not like a pinch hitter, you never make a plate appearance.
It doesn't count.
It's still, because you think about like a day off.
I think it's going to be broken. I don't know when, but I do think it's going to be broken.
I mean, think about it. It's been active for 70 years.
Yeah.
75 years, something like that.
Yeah. I think that one has possibilities.
It does have possibilities.
You know what? I saw Joe at a coffee shop.
Get out of here. Everything's a Seinfeld reference. All right, this next one has a little dispute to it. So we're talking the career leader for most hit by pitches. Now, a lot of people think it's Craig Biggio, which is 285. There's a player from the turn of the century named Hugh Jennings who has 287, but he played in the 1880s where, I'm just going to say it, records weren't kept the best. We have to assume that hit by pitch, I mean, back in the 1880s, were there a continual set of rules? Mm-hmm. So it's very close. So 285 Biggio, 287 Hugh Jennings. Does anyone ever get hit 300 times?
I say no, because in today's game, if you try to pitch inside and you hit somebody, then all of a sudden, things get all out of whack and everything. Not too many people can pitch inside anymore. You don't have the Bob Gibsons, Don Drysdales will throw inside and then look at you. I don't think anyone's going to get hit that many times.
A lot of ejections too, and they're trying to.
Correct. So I don't think that one's safe.
Trying to curb that. Okay.
Yes.
Fun and unusual stat. Fernando Tatis Sr. holds this record. 2 grand slams in 1 inning.
Wow. I say it won't be broken.
I think the only possibility would be a tie.
Yeah.
Because 3 grand slams in an inning is
virtually
30-some runs.
Yeah,
like
virtually
just mathematically,
impossible. Think about going through the lineup 3 times.
Yeah. And having that opportunity
and
happen.
changing pitchers.
The whole bullpen. I mean, they would quit.
That's right. Backup catcher, get out there.
Yeah, I think that one's, again, the only thing it can be tied but never broken.
Yeah.
Pete Rose, we'll talk about the all-time hits leader. 4,256 hit stat. All-time career. Think about how long Pete Rose played, player manager. Is that ever broken? And I will, while you're thinking of that, offer Ichiro. If we counted his Japanese hits and American hits, he breaks it. But Ichiro, I think, started playing in professional ball at 18.
Correct.
In Japan.
Oh, Fina,
and he played until 41,
Fina
42.
will come around, start playing 18, 19. We'll have to play to at least 36, 37.
20. I would say more.
I say it won't be broken.
If he had an average hitter hit 200 hits, sorry, not an average hitter. If a hitter averaged 200 hits a year for 20 years, that's still 4,000. That's still 256 shy.
Yeah. I say no, because I think, again, with how the game has changed and pitching and days off and everything and injuries, I don't think so.
I also think that Ichiro probably was one of the last pure hitters of baseball because everyone is now pressured to hit the long ball. That's the best way to drive in runs.
The shift.
Average isn't really looked at like highly anymore. Like, you hit 330 in a season. Like, it should be phenomenal, like Tony Gwynn numbers.
Think about how the shift has taken away all the hits.
I agree. So I think Pete Rose's record is safe, not necessarily for the hits, but the longevity of his career played, because no one's playing that long anymore or being a player manager. Right. Whatever his average was per year, obviously people have beaten that average in a given year, but not all time.
He always hit like 330. He was always in the top 10 of, as a kid. You looked at, when newspapers were read, you always had the top 10 of batting averages and home runs and all this stuff in all the papers, and he was always in the top 10. So, yeah, he had a lot of hustle hits, too. He slapped it and just ran.
Yeah.
So
squeaked it in there like Wade Boggs.
Yeah.
Now we're talking the speed demon Ricky Henderson, 1,406 career stolen bases. Does that ever get broken?
No, because the stolen base is not in vogue anymore.
I agree. He was stealing at some clips over 100 bases a year.
Yeah.
I mean, what if Trey Turner's getting 30 or 40? He's electric. And now that's not even a third of what he was getting in a single year.
I remember Maury Wills, Lou Brock used to be in the 60s.
Coleman.
Yeah, and that's when stolen bases was a cool thing in baseball. Now it's a lot of stationary, baseball, and they've taken away the stolen base because they want to get the 3-run home run. So, yeah, it's a lost art.
I think it's safe.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are safe or saved, what about Mariano Rivera's 652 career saves?
That is safe. I don't think anyone's ever going to bust that.
I think it is one of the few beatable ones on here. Now, I'm not saying, again, it's a lot of these are hard.
Think about the average per year.
Well, Hoffman was only about 50 away.
Yeah, Hoffman but at the same time, I think he got to be on a winning team.
Yeah. 2,
you have to have longevity, and 2, you got to avoid injuries.
Yeah. Again, if someone, people like Chris Sale, is a good example, who came up as a closer. Well, obviously came up as a starter in the minors, converted to a closer, they converted back to a starter. No one seems to stay as starter, reliever, closer anymore.
Yeah.
So, and they also shuffle them. Like, look at Liam Hendricks and Craig Kimbrell, too. Liam was a closer for years. You trade for someone mid-season. The Yankees never did that. Rivera was always their closer for 20 years. Averaging, though, 35 saves a year on a good team for 20 years or so is possible, but you have to come up really well, at 21 years old and stay dominant for that. I think it's possible. I'm not saying it's likely, and I don't think it should be broken, Yankees fans. I'm just saying if compared to some of these, this has a possibility.
He had a pitch that people couldn't figure out as well. Cutter, forkball, whatever you want to call it.
Cutter, yeah.
And apparently, it didn't have that much stress on your arm. So if someone comes in like a Goose Gossage that just throws heat, you're gonna have a shorter career because your arm's gonna have that many pitches.
You're right.
He took care of himself and threw a pitch that didn't wear and tear his arm as much. So that was his key, I think.
There is a reliever record.
And be on the Yankees.
Being on a good team. There is a reliever record coming up that I think is unbreakable, but we'll get to that in a second. Dad, here is a way back record that hasn't been broken or been even attempted since the dead ball era. 12 inside the park home runs in a single season by Sam Crawford. 12.
Not going to be broken.
The ballparks are too small. 2 or 3 a year, I think, is unheard of.
Correct.
Stealing home is unheard of, really, these days. 12 being that fast and hitting that many opportunities. I mean, that's basically, you're the fastest guy on the field, and you're hitting triples with no errors.
Right.
And
and you had the Polo Grounds. You had these stadiums that was 450 or more in the alleys. Yeah. So you hit in the alley, and you get a little botch play, and you had speed, you could do it. Now no ballpark is 450, So, again, change of the game.
Yeah. Now we're talking about a team record here. I'm glad you wore your Cubs jersey here, or Cubs hoodie. Most wins in a season, not considering any playoff postseason wins. Currently there's a tie at 116. The Cubs, an older team obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And the Mariners of 2001. They both had 116 wins. So obviously it was close to being broken with the Mariners 20 years ago. Is 116 wins possible to be broken?
I say yes.
I say yes, too.
Yeah. You take a dominant team in our society, and again, it's so funny talking about the contracts, and now they're going to do anti-tanking and everything else. That becomes a little more of a discussion because now they're saying, hey, if you tank, you're going to get penalized.
Yeah.
So it might be more competitive baseball, but right now you have the haves and have-nots. But it's possible.
I know not a lot of people like the fact that the Dodgers won in 2020. They're like, wasn't a full season, blah, blah, blah. I think that team expanded out for 162 games could have been in that one teen type of season.
Yeah, because they lost, maybe, I forgot how many they lost.
20, 19, 20 games.
Yeah, and they had a great team.
So
yeah.
I think it's possible. Now, switching from wins to losses. Don't worry, Dad, the Cubs aren't on here. Most losses in a season. I would like to share 3 teams here because there's almost like 3 eras these fall in. The Cleveland Spiders, which they should have gone back to, not the Guardians. In 1899, hold the record for 134. Story behind that, Dad, since everybody loves baseball stories. The owner of the Cleveland Spiders also bought, I believe it was then the St. Louis Browns, and he wanted to put more money into the thriving, growing city of St. Louis. So he took all his players that were good on the Spiders, and this is why you can't own 2 baseball teams, and put them to the Browns to try to make that team good, and basically left Cleveland in the dust. Mm-hmm. So they were a farm team, basically, playing Major League Baseball.
Talk about tanking.
Yeah. And then, in terms of teams that actually tried, 1962 Mets, 120 losses, and 2003 Tigers, 119.
Yeah, the Mets 62 was the expansion team. Mm-hmm. They were pathetic. I do remember that team and reading about it, and they had really AAA players. So I can see that. So how many losses were the record?
134, but that's not possible in my opinion.
Yeah, because it was only 152 game season.
Right, 120 to 119. Those are depending on the era, but 120.
I'd say those won't be broken because, again...
if anti-tanking is in place.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And then sooner or later, you should be able to win 60 to 70 games a year. You should.
Right.
So, yeah.
Both those are big cities, in my opinion. Obviously, a New York team and a Detroit team.
Yeah, the Mets were... Do you know what the Mets' full nickname is?
The Metropolitans?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I thought you meant like the lovable losers.
No.
Over here with
But no one could remember New York Metropolitans. We got to shorten that name.
Yeah.
And that's how the Mets came involved because for a while in the sports pages, it was Metropolitans, but took too much room.
Had to go shorts. Yanks, you know.
Yeah.
Now we're moving to another Pete Rose record, Dad. A batting record. Now this is plate appearances. So this obviously includes hits, walks, strikeouts. Mm-hmm. Anytime that guy walked up to the plate, a plate appearance. 15,890 plate appearances and 4 contacts. The current leader, Pujols, is 3,000 fewer than that.
Wow. And he's been in the bigs for 23 years, something like that?
I would say 22 is my guess. I bet this is his 22nd season. I think he started in 2000.
Okay.
September call-up.
He's 3,000 short.
He's 3,000 short.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be broken.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of at-bats. In a given season, what,
5 to 6 as a starter.
Just about to say that.
So Pujols would need to start 162 games, play nearly every day for 5 more years just to get close. And he's not. You're right.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be broken.
I agree.
Yeah. Interesting, though.
Let's talk career ejections. Now, before you look, I don't know if you saw the name.
No.
My first thought was Earl Weaver. That's wrong. Who do you think holds the record as a manager for most career ejections?
Billy Martin.
Incorrect. He's up there, though. Bobby Cox.
He had a bad mouth.
Bobby Cox has been ejected for a full season. 162 games he's been ejected from. Not suspended, but he's been ejected from 162 games.
Okay.
So literally a full season of baseball he's been ejected from.
Apparently, he always has some angers, and he had a choice...
Hall of Fame?
Yes. Choice language. And apparently, for stories from John Schmaltz and Greg Maddox, the very first inning, he started getting on the home plate umpire about balls and strikes, and to really fight for Maddox to get the corners and all that stuff. And the minute the game started, he was on the umpire, and then by the third, fourth inning, they had enough. So again, he just was a very angry manager.
He had some great winning teams.
He did.
And some great players. So, yeah, I don't think that'll get broken either. I don't even know who the current leader is. It's probably Frank Kona or...
Managers really don't get thrown out as much as they once did.
Yeah.
You don't have that Lou Piniella, Billy Martin, Earl Weaver type of manager anymore.
Yeah.
It's true.
Albert Pujols, we've talked about him a lot being like the current leader for a lot of these. He actually does hold an all-time record, Dad, and that is not a good one. The most grounded plays, let me get this right. Most double plays grounded into.
Yeah.
413. Now, with shifts,
Yes.
with people really knowing where the ball, in theory, should hit, Miguel Cabrera has a lot of these too. Do you think 413 is possible? And he's only going to grow, in theory, a couple more of these.
And he's not a very swift man.
Right.
413. I'm thinking in a given season, if you do that 40 times, that's a lot.
Yeah. Usually the season leader's like in the 20s.
20s. It makes sense. So
I'm sure he had season leader playing.
No, I don't think it's going to be broken because if you go 20 times 20, that's 400.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm thinking with the shift has really hurt him being a big pull hitter.
I think also with him still playing and only adding to this total, although probably 10 or less more times.
Yeah.
I just don't know if people are going to play that much. And I think if you are the league leader at 20 grounded and double plays, you might sit a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or someone's going to hire a better hitting coach to say, hey, here's opposite field.
Or he hits the ball so hard that it's a quick double play and he doesn't have foot speed to get down the line. Because he hits the ball hard. So I think that's some of it as well.
With the future of baseball, if shifts are not, controlled, banned, regulated, whatever word you want to use, then I think this is possible. But if shifts are limited, then no, there's going to be more hits in baseball, obviously.
Which is good for the game.
Yeah, I agree. All right, this is the reliever record that I think won't be broken, but I want to hear your opinion. So most games played by a pitcher is obviously set by a reliever here. Jesse Orosco, talking about the Metropolitans.
Side armor.
1,252 games played in. By the way, the top 30 is all relievers. Yeah. There's not starters in that list. No way. So that is pitching in, you're looking at...
700. No, there's no way.
60 games a year for 20 years.
There's no way.
Right.
Yeah.
Pitchers don't, relievers don't do that.
He had a rubber arm.
They're also not that good. Yeah. Relievers have like this arc and then they fall off.
Jesse, from what I remember, was a guy who used to come out and get 2 outs and then go in and get out of the game and everything. So his stints weren't long stints.
Right. But he never got really injured.
Correct.
No Tommy John.
He was a whip.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure he played 20 years or more because he was with a lot of teams and everything else. But yeah, that's a hell of a record.
Think about that in just as a player. That's a player starting for 10 seasons.
Correct.
125 games a season, basically.
Man, can you imagine warming up on top of that and all the pitches he's thrown in his life?
Yeah. Wow. So Jesse Orosco, I think your record's unbreakable.
Good for Jesse.
And all the people up there with him are like the Arthur Rhodes, like the people from the 80s and 90s.
The specialist. Okay, makes sense.
Most positive steroid tests that obviously are reported is also a Met. There's some Mets on this list. Henry Mejia, he's the only person, that's why if you're not familiar with this, he's a reliever also, that he actually got banned from baseball for a couple years because it was like 50, like the first penalty was 50, then it was 162, like A-Rod, and then the third one was being banned from baseball. He actually appealed this, got back into baseball. Red Sox signed him to a minor league contract. He didn't do very well, and he's no longer in baseball. So does anyone somehow push past 3?
No, because I think now the penalties are so substantial that if you get to that threshold, then basically you're blackballed. Yeah, so I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and mathematical, it could only get tied because
and if you're a pitcher,
you shouldn't have been allowed back into baseball either.
Yeah, and think about it. If you're a pitcher, you're losing all your stuff anyhow.
Yeah,
you can't take a year off and come back strong.
Staying with pitchers, we're going to talk about Cy Young here, Dad. And Cy Young holds a lot of records. He's a great pitcher. There's an award named after him. But did you know that he also holds the record for most losses?
When I was watching a baseball game, they said that. So they said that, he pitched so often.
Right.
Back then, I think he had a 3-man rotation, if I'm not mistaken.
They also pitched insane amount of innings. Like 5. I think there was a couple years where Cy Young... he also... I'm going to go over all his records that he
Yeah.
holds, but I think he would throw 500 innings in a season.
Yeah.
Which
Warren
is 3
Spahn.
years really of modern day pitchers.
The old Milwaukee Braves had Lou Burdette, Warren Spahn, and Eddie Sain, something like that.
That's it.
Yeah, and you pitch every third day.
Yep.
And you threw in the 70s. That's all you had.
Yeah. So Cy Young obviously holds a record for losses and wins. Most runs given up, most hits given up, most innings pitched, most batters faced, most games started, and most complete games. And I think all of those, will be unbreakable.
Yeah. Just
Positive and negative.
Just a different era. Starters are limited with how many pitches they pitch. Relievers are coming in, coming out. It's a different game. So I agree. Yeah, back then you pitched, your arm fell off.
Most World Series wins as a player only goes to, you're going to think Yankees. I know that's right.
Oh, boy. Mickey Mantle.
No, Yogi Berra. He has 10. So I don't...
Wow.
10, I know. There's a lot of Yankees with 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
But Yogi has 10. Still somehow was a second ballot Hall of Famer. He didn't get on his first. Blows my mind. Do you think that gets ever broken? 10 World Series wins as a player.
No.
I agree.
No.
No teams are that dominant for that long.
Yeah.
And no players are going to be that lucky. Jock Peterson got back-to-back. He's not going to do that 8 more times.
No. No, Mr. October there.
Jocktober.
That's at the same time.
Braves. Braves fans.
But yeah, think about it. You got to be so lucky to be on a winning team. But now with today's drafts and free agents, you can't stay that in power that long.
Agree.
Yeah, it's a rotation of teams.
Money's a big issue.
Yeah, you're right.
Now we're going to move on to defense, and actually we're going to talk about a pitcher, Dad. Talk about a former Cub, a Cub and Brave, Greg Maddox. Most Gold Gloves is Greg Maddox. He has 18 of them.
And yeah,
Brooks is a full position player at 16, but 18 Gold Gloves, I don't think ever gets broken. Do you?
Never, ever,
That's
ever.
18 seasons.
Yes. And
Perfection, too.
And think about all the influx of young talent coming up.
Yeah.
That's a little quicker, a little faster, stronger arm. Yeah, you can't hold that elite status that long.
I also think Brooks is, for a true position player, also never gets broken.
Yeah.
It's the same concept.
Think of Maddox, 16 years. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But he apparently was a phenomenal athlete, you know?
Now, the next one is something that we could see in 2022, if we have a season, get tied. And this is the most home run derby wins. Held, of course, by Ken Griffey Jr. Pete Alonso is knocking on this door, and I know Pete Alonso wants this record. He doesn't want to tie it. He wants to shatter it, by the way. And I actually think this will gets broken.
Yeah, he's destined to do that. I think he looks forward to that more than the season.
100%. He's better than the season.
Yeah.
Griffey obviously stopped competing after he did win 3, so I don't think Pete will stop because Pete's a different guy. I like Pete, Mets fans. But if Griffey, if they truly put the best 8 home run hitters year after year, I think Griffey's total is more like 7 or 8, but he stopped. I think Griffey could still win a home run derby today, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You know, he
can still dunk.
There you go.
But I do think that one gets broken. Dad, career, we're talking about postseasons now. So we're moving on to the playoffs. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Yankees here again. Most career postseason hits goes to
Reggie Jackson.
Now batting, number 2, Derek
yeah.
Jeter.
Okay.
He has 200 career hits in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Think
about that for a minute. Postseason hits, just those words. There's no way.
More so in total.
Good.
That's just insane.
Good for Derek.
So the captain, I think,
Mr. November,
for a reason, clearly.
Yeah.
I think if they expanded the playoffs like they did in 2020, and Randy Rosarina set all those records, it is possible, but that would have to be for 20 years, and I don't want the postseason to be like that.
Yeah.
So as long as the postseason isn't drastically changed, I think Jeter has that record locked.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about, I know the Hall of Fame vote has happened, Dad, and I want to talk about 2 players that fell off. This is our 24th and 25th record. 2 players that fell off the Hall of Fame ballot that were great players, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens.
Yeah.
Dad, do you know what each holds a record for, besides home runs for Bonds?
I think Clemens is strikeouts.
Clemens is not strikeouts.
Okay, then I was wrong with that. Okay. Barry would be extra base hits.
Good call there. Barry is most MVPs. I think he has many records, but he has 7 MVP awards all time. And Roger Clemens has the most Cy Youngs, also at 7.
Huh.
The nearest person currently playing is at 3, Trout and Scherzer. So for vice versa, MVPs and Cy Youngs. Scherzer's not going to get 7 mathematically. Trout could possibly get 7. But do you think either are broken? 7 and 7.
I think the hitting one, yes.
Interesting. You think MVPs? Someone could get more than 7 MVPs?
I do.
Harper?
Just a dominant party. Well, Harper's only in his late 80s. I mean, late 20s.
He's not playing baseball.
Hello. Late 20s. So, yeah, I think it's possible.
Harper only has 2. So you're saying in the later half...
Trout has how many?
Three. In the later half of both of their careers... to turn on 4.
That's going to be tough.
Now, Bonds actually did exactly that, but he had the help of steroids.
Yeah.
He had 4 in his 30s, 3 in his 20s.
You're right. Yeah, now that you think about the math, it's going to be very hard to do.
I think
hard to do.
I think both are unbreakable.
You got to be elite for that many years. And again, injuries and changing of the game. Yeah, I think that, No,
you have to be the king of the hill for 7 years out of... No, again, we were talking about this the whole time. No one's having 20-year careers anymore.
Correct.
Scherzer possibly could get a 4th. That's it. In my opinion,
he's down to probably 2 years.
He's got a 3-year contract,
right? 3 years the most.
You can't be dominant at 38, 39, 40.
Yeah, especially how hard he throws.
I think Verlander has 2.
He's at the end of his career.
Exactly. So there's a lot of people that, I mean,
wow, what a competitive game.
It is, and you can't pitchers. You look at that's like being from 25 when you truly get that full-time starting role to 35, and then you start to really decline. You have to be dominant for 7 of those 10 years, and not just dominant, but the best in the league.
I know.
I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, as they say, you have to be at the elite level, and it's hard to be elite every year. Yeah. Look at Mike Trout. Never thought he would be injured, but his injury took him out for almost the entire year.
Exactly.
And
steroids keep you not injured, or your injuries heal quicker.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, I don't think either of those are broken. Say what you will about the records, but I don't think are broken. Dad, the last record isn't on my list, but I just thought of it. Now, I don't know who holds this record, but I do know who's going to break it. Dad, who do you think will have the longest running father and son podcast in 30 years?
I hope it's us. I hope it's us
too. Baseball podcast.
Yes. That'd be great.
If we got a little something from Guinness, longest running podcast about baseball.
That's right.
Who's got
a bottle of vitamins? Put it right here. Geritol.
But yeah, so I just want to go over those. Some of those were interesting, I hope.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Those are only probably 5 that we thought would be broken.
Yeah.
The most of them were like, hey, that's not going to be broken, which is, I mean, I thought it'd be like a 50-50, but it was a vast minority. That says a lot.
And again, I just picked 25.
Yeah.
There's
the good ones, though.
Yeah, dozens more out there that are a little bit more weird or a little bit more common. Like we didn't talk about like a doubles leader or a triples leader.
Yeah. Very few triples now.
Right.
Triples used to be a big thing.
Yeah, triples in a season will never get broken because smaller ballparks. We talked about that. Same with inside the park home runs.
Speed is not the issue anymore. It's all about power and all that kind of stuff. But name 10 very elite runners in the game of baseball, you can't.
Yeah.
But that's
their name's
good.
Terrence Gore, and they only get called up to run the bases
in October.
Right, and he's got 2 rings from that reason, 3 rings.
That's true.
Royals,
he's cashed in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for listening. If you have any cool records that you think won't get broken, put them in the comments below. Give us some follows on social media, let alone YouTube. So, subscribe to us on YouTube. At Pastime Podcast _ on Twitter and Instagram. He's now on Twitter, by the way.
I know.
He's now on Twitter. So he's, you'll see posts about baseball.
I'm at 2005 with technology, so I'm really making a move.
And then we are the Father and Son Pastime Podcast on Facebook as well. We're trying to get to 100 followers on all those platforms. We are still slowly growing subscribers, so please share this on your socials. Give us a tag. We'll give you a like. And a follow back as well. So thank you for watching.
Happy Valentine's Day out there for everyone. And great job. He did really good research. So this is very interesting. So hope you enjoyed it.
We got a few drafts coming. Dad, I think the next one we will do is another Hall of Very Good. This time for the old folks at home, the 1980s.
I'm there.
A decade I didn't get to watch. So it'll be fun to see who wins that draft.
Yeah.
So keep watching.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the coming weeks we'll be able to post that one.
That was a good decade. That was a real good decade. So terrific. Thank you.
Can't relate. Thanks for watching.